Hi, I'm Erin from the Witch of Saturn. I'm here with my Astro bestie, Maggie from Made by Mag's Astro, and we're just chilling and talking about the astrology of the week and really how big the Neptunian energy is today. So,
Mhm.
Maggie, what were you saying about that?
So where I was going with it is, okay, let's go back to the eclipse because that just happened, right? It just happened on Sunday.
Yep.
Um, I have been, okay, so what happened was I played in a big baseball tournament and I am not athletic. I don't play baseball. It was 4 games back to back.
You're like, what am I doing?
Where even am I? What am I doing?
How does
Where,
this
like,
happen?
so out of my comfort zone, right? Um, and I hit my limit. Like that Satyrian energy, like my legs felt like lead. Like I couldn't. By the end of the day, I was like, I'm done. And we made it to the finals, so there was another game on the Sunday, and I was like, I can't. I already know my limit. I'm starting to not feel well. I was feeling sick on Saturday when I played, but I pushed myself through it.
Mhm.
But like I hit my limitation. I was like, I get it. I'm done. And then Sunday was okay. Like I was sore and stuff, but I could feel this cold coming on. And then so yeah, I was being very, very hard on myself about not playing in the game. I felt like I let everybody down. I just had to like send my husband and be like, good luck. Hopefully it goes well. I'm gonna stay in bed, sort of thing. And then yeah, yesterday, same sort of thing. I just kind of all my responsibilities to the side. I need to stay in bed. And you know how you have days like that when you're like, I know I need to rest, but at the same time just so hard on yourself about like not getting anything accomplished, not doing any work, not doing anything at all. Like I totally just took a sick day.
That's my whole life. That's inside of my brain.
Well,
Constant.
yeah, like you do that normally, but like when you actually let yourself lay down, it's
Mhm.
like even harder, right? Um and then today it's same sort of like I'm back, I'm talking to you, we're going to talk about all the transits going on, but this morning the sun is opposite Neptune. So over the weekend the sun was opposite Saturn, and it's just sort of like, where am I? What am I doing? How do I
Yeah, it
even
is
get started? Like
a
what
major
time is it?
a major fog has rolled in
Yeah.
and it's really intense. And I was thinking about this as I was driving because I was late this morning and I was just telling you before we started recording, I had this like weird dream. We actually overslept, but it was because I was having this weird dream and I felt in this fog, like I couldn't separate from my dream world, which is just heavy Neptune energy. And then when I was driving my youngest daughter to preschool, I was listening to the news here in the US because Maggie, you're in Canada, but you stay
Mm-hmm.
up to date on like what's going on here too. And I was listening to all the news right now is all about this like Robert Kennedy and this does Tylenol cause autism?
Oh my
And
gosh.
it just feels so Saturn Neptune to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, maybe this is part of the energy we've been in with the Saturn Neptune conjunction applying. It's separated because Saturn went retrograde and is now back in Pisces. But like we're approaching that. And I was like, I wonder if it's going to be this thing about the drug companies, right? Because
Yes. The
Neptune rules
pharmaceuticals, that's
pharmaceuticals,
also
right?
very Pisces Virgo, that
True,
whole
true.
healthcare
Yeah,
aspect.
Axis.
Yeah.
Very true. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
think about that with the eclipse. Yeah, because the eclipses just happened on the Pisces Virgo
Yes.
axis, especially this past one was at the anaretic degree of 29.
Yep.
So that seems, and it was in opposition to Saturn.
Yeah, the Saturn Neptune conjunction, which is
Yep.
still very active, even though they're kind of
They're
Neptune's
out of
still in
sign.
Aries. Yeah,
They're
Saturn's
out of
in
sign, but they're
Pisces now.
still close.
It's it was the first new moon in the eclipse cycle. Like we haven't had a new moon there yet. And now he's all of a sudden coming up with all this rhetoric around Tylenol causing autism. I'm pretty sure I took hella Tylenol when I was pregnant. My kids are fine.
I know. It's such a, you know, it's, I don't know what the right word is, this like backhanded way to blame mothers for like
Yeah,
like a
it's
mother with a child with an autistic child doesn't have enough to deal with. Now we're
yeah,
say,
yeah,
oh, it's her fault. It's your fault. You did it to your own kid by taking Tylenol. Like it's just so ridiculous. But I feel like that has got to be part of, that energetic astrological
yeah.
picture.
So there's that, and then now he's talking about vaccinations and the
That's what he's always
vaccines and all that kind of crap. It's just being spun out of control. All the delusion of Neptune, all that
doing.
illusionary energy, and the sun sitting opposite that, usually representative of like the leader or a person in control or in charge or of power. And it's so unhinged. It is so unhinged. It's creating that grand air trine to Uranus and
I was thinking
Pluto.
about that
Yeah, do you
too,
want to
about
pull up the chart?
I
Because this
do.
is it's it's shocking to say the least. And I personally don't even think autism is a bad thing. I think people with autism are almost Uranian in a way because they have this like elevated understanding, um, intelligence, you know?
And just a different nervous system.
Yeah,
A
definitely.
different nervous system, which is very Uranian. Yeah, I think that it would be Uranus aspects that would be pretty prevalent in the charts of people who are on the autistic spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
this is the current transits right now. And so we're talking about this grand air trine where we've got Uranus at 1 degree of Gemini over here, and Pluto at 1 degree of Aquarius, and then the Sun and Mercury at the beginning degrees of Libra, having the
Mm-hmm.
Sun just ingressed into Libra and started the fall season here in the Northern Hemisphere. That just happened yesterday. So it's been since yesterday since we have this grand trine. And it's definitely, I feel like that intense communication from leadership with this like off the wall claim is like very much, or even this being representative of the autistic spectrum,
Yeah, that's
um,
true too.
right? Could
Mm-hmm.
definitely, and this extremism that comes with Pluto, very black and white
Yeah,
thinking,
takes it to the biggest. It's
most
like,
extreme.
yeah, the most extremist point that it can. And then, yeah, Neptune and Saturn sit there at the, I call it the apex. I think you look at it the opposite way. Is that true? Or you look at the sun as the apex?
Of the kite.
Yeah, of that whole pattern there.
Like, I don't know what the right terminology is. So you're saying that I think Saturn and Neptune would be the apex, but that the anchor point would be the Sun and Mercury,
Yes. Yeah.
because that's
Oh,
what tethers the kite down. So what we're talking about is this grand trine here, this triangle, and then the smaller triangle with these sextiles. What do you call that?
I call it like a minor triangle. Some people call it a talent triangle or a minor sextile, or sorry, a grand sextile or something like that.
Okay, I've heard the
Essentially,
grand sextile is what I'm thinking.
yeah, essentially it's at that trine between Uranus and Pluto, and then the sextiles go to Saturn and Neptune.
And then Saturn and Neptune make an opposition to the Sun and Mercury. And so what that does is makes this kite configuration, right?
Mhm.
Where the opposition is kind of like the spine and the tail of the
Yeah,
kite, if
I
you could
call it a
imagine
spine.
that, right? And then the idea behind this configuration, and there's like not a whole lot of, I don't know. I've tried to research kites a lot because my oldest daughter has one in her chart. There's not a whole lot out there, but the idea is that then this kind of configuration then like lifts everything up, right? Like takes
Hmm.
off, but it's very intense and it really comes down to that opposition to the apex and the anchor. Like it all kind of comes back to that and to figuring out how to work with those energies. Is that your understanding of it?
Yeah, and especially when it's in air signs like this, it's like the kite takes flight, it goes off into the air, which is, our thoughts and our ideas and the information that's being spread. And then the other energy at the end of it is that fire and water, which is just like counteracting each other in some way, like fire burns out or air, bleh, water burns out fire, but air feeds fire. So it's like all the oxygen of it.
Well, and
Um,
fire boils water.
yeah, and then there's that too. There's like it's all going back and forth and back and forth in this very weird sort of all this stuff's taking off, but because it doesn't make any sense, there's literally no Earth. The only Earth planet right now is Venus, and she's in her fall, so she's weak, and nobody's like listening to Venus or looking at Venus for the actual making sense of the things. Um, all of it is just very with Neptune there. It's just all lies and delusions and illusions and like made up stuff. Like there's no, this autism claim has no reality. Like it has no concrete data behind it. There's no scientific information that even backs up that claim. You know what I mean? Like there's no tangible
Evidence.
anything.
And then
Evidence. Yeah.
on top of that, that's such a good point about there not being any Earth to ground it. But on top of that, then there's this Mars Neptune in conjunction that's
Mm-hmm.
also happened with Mars ingressing into Scorpio. And that's a tight one, right? Because they're both at 0 degrees.
Yeah, right now, for
So
sure.
so that any Mars Neptune aspects are super challenging, especially when it comes to health. And so that also is interesting. Like I've always thought about it on a more personal level when it comes to medical astrology, but on this mo mundane, you know, view, it's very interesting that it's kind of creating a disruption in the overall collective view on healthcare, right? On a health issue. And I
Mm-hmm.
just see that as also like not helping this situation.
No, and then to add to that, Pluto or Mars is about to come into a square with Pluto. So the sun is shining its light. If we think of the sun like a big flashlight or a spotlight or something like that, the sun is going to shine all of its light on top of Pluto. But then Mars comes in from like the undercovered nighttime world, like behind the shadows, because it's in Scorpio now, and squares Pluto first thing tomorrow morning. So it's sort of like unraveling the delusion, I hope, anyways.
I don't know.
Of
I feel
like,
like that's more like exploding. When I think of Mars, Neptune, I mean, sorry, Mars, Pluto squares, I always think of like atomic bomb. Like that's just like it's not a good
no,
it's
that's true. What I did was I went back in time because the last aspect we had between Mars and Pluto was the opposition.
Yep.
And the opposition happened 3 times because that was back when Mars was in retrograde. If you
That's right.
remember,
Yeah,
the
that was when Mars was retrograding through Leo and Cancer.
yeah, and that was like the longest retrograde ever.
And that was
Um,
from when? Around like December of last
Yeah, okay. So the very first opposition, it's quite interesting because it happened when Pluto was at 29 degrees of Capricorn
year. Okay,
and
it was before
Mars, yeah, it
Ingress.
was November 1st, 2024. Um, and if you, there it is, yeah.
So there's
And
Mars, 29 Cancer, 29 Cap.
yeah, and still creating this
Okay.
kite aspect, but or pattern, but it was
Yeah.
like now it was between earth and water signs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you remember back then, that was sort of when Biden was
That
like,
was the election,
yeah, Biden
right?
was like,
No.
I'm done, I'm leaving. Yeah, it was the election. He's
Okay.
like, I'm not even in the race anymore.
Where am I? Yeah, that was well, this was just days before the election, right?
Yeah, so it was leading up to it. Um, so it was between Camilla Harris and Trump. So it's really
Okay.
interesting that
Interesting.
those hit the anaretic degree.
At that
And
time.
then the second opposition was January 3rd, 2025, which was just days before the inauguration.
Yep. Okay. Wow. This is very good. I'm so happy
Mhm.
that you did your homework because I did not.
I was like, what it because why I'm doing this is because Mars and Pluto have their own cycle. So they
Yep.
move like the sun and the moon, and they'll make the square, that opposition, then another square. So this is the closing square to whatever was happening during these
And
oppositions. So it's sort of like a full moon
yeah,
if
it's all their own
their own
relationship.
cycle, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, So this one, yeah, days before the inauguration, I looked up the news. It looks like there was stuff happening with like a lot of stuff happening with Israel and Hamas and Syria, and I think there was also the first few times was when there were maybe this Luigi stuff happened.
Oh,
Uh
interesting. Because he killed a healthcare CEO. We
yes,
see that
yes.
theme,
And
or
then there were like
allegedly, whatever.
car explosions, like
Yeah.
people attacking
Well,
people's cars.
That was the Tesla stuff.
Yeah.
That was
So,
Tesla because people boycotting Elon Musk, and there was like a car bomb in a Tesla that went off in Vegas, maybe or something, if I'm
yes,
remembering
Vegas.
correctly.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what, when you said explosions, I was like, okay, yeah, there were explosions. Um, I can't remember off the top of my head other stuff that happened around then. But then the third time is the really interesting time, and that was April 26, 2025. And this was Pope Francis's funeral. So the
Really?
Pope was sick in January, obviously November, December, January, that whole time frame. And I didn't write down the day he actually passed, but this was his funeral.
And then when was the other Pluto Mars square?
Oh, I didn't go back to that. I ran out of time. But this one was in a T square to the sun. So I thought that was interesting because the sun had just squared Pluto and Mars. Um, there was also a car attack in Vancouver during this opposition where a person ran their vehicle into like it was a gathering of like a different orientation that he didn't like. So he drove his car into a bunch of people, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, all these aspects carry the same sort
Okay.
of theme of crazy hard stuff.
Yeah, and one of the squares, October 8th, 2023.
Yeah, it was that far back, eh? That's why I was like, I'll
Well,
just look at the oppositions.
that really marked evolving conflict between Israel and Hamas.
Mm.
So there we have
Oh,
27
there it is.
Libra and Cap. Hold on, and then there was another one. Um, June 11th, 2024. Let's see what was happening in the news then.
June 11th.
Because there's Pluto at 1 degree of Aquarius and Mars at 1 degree of Taurus.
Okay, so that's the most recent before the
There's
oppositions.
another one. Hold on. I just want to see. Oh, that was Hunter Biden's firearm conviction, a major aircraft crash in Malawi, the acceptance of a US-backed Gaza ceasefire resolution by Hamas. So we see
Okay.
definitely a tie-in with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's like the conflict, like they try to solve it, but then under these aspects, it gets out of control again.
And then
Uh,
let's see, September 24th, 2025 is now,
is now.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
it's,
that,
it's this one
today.
on Wednesday.
Jesus, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
see, this is the Neptune stuff, guys. We're just
we're doing our best here. So this is I would be surprised if something today or tomorrow did not come out about something having to do with the Israel Hamas
hmm
situation, because we've seen that as this ongoing theme with the energies between these two planets. So that to me would yeah, this is tomorrow's chart, especially once that the moon hits. So let's see when that,
Yes, because the moon's gonna come in there
yeah, as
and
soon as the
activate
moon
it.
comes in and activates that, um,
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the Pluto
which is
Sun
probably, let's
trine.
just see. So as soon as the moon goes into,
Yeah, so the moon's gonna hit that Pluto Sun trine, and then it's going because the moon's in Libra right now,
like
right?
early tomorrow morning, like 5 a.m. ish.
Yeah, so the Sun trine to Pluto is at 2:04 a.m. The moon moves into Scorpio at 5 a.m. and then by 7:51 a.m. Mars squares Pluto. So it's whatever happens today, and I just saw the news pop up that Mr. Trump is speaking at the United Nations right now. So
Okay, so we definitely want to pay attention to what, well, I don't want to pay attention to it, but I
I
want
don't want to watch. Yeah, I didn't. Oh, and that was another thing. That memorial, the Charlie Kirk thing, took place under the eclipse on
yeah,
Sunday. And
that was
he said,
definitely
he said a bunch of super unhinged stuff there too.
it was as per usual.
Yeah.
So the rest of, I mean, that is really the dominant astrological energy that's happening this week. I feel like today and tomorrow is like the peak of this real intensity. And then it seems like we might
Because
kind of,
Thursday is like nothing.
yeah,
Like
Thursday is quiet, right? And
nothing
then
happens on Thursday. It's so weird.
so it's
Uh,
just like a calm of like that's another thing about that aspect of like feeling like a bomb's been dropped. Like there's like a whole day of like shh, like
yeah,
fallout afterwards. That's why I'm like, oh my God, this is intense.
it is intense. So, yeah, and that's a really good word for Mars and Pluto. It's intense. It's gonna be intense. But then there's this thing about Mars and Scorpio where it kind of like does things behind the scenes, and Pluto's very secretive and, yeah, hidden also. So I don't know if we'll totally understand or we'll even hear what happens.
Yeah,
Um,
like things could come to light later.
yeah, because also the eclipse, right? Like everything is obscured right now. It's still the shadow period of the eclipse itself, and that eclipses take time to play out. And we might not even totally understand what's happening here for like months, even years sometimes down the line. But I would not be surprised if there is another, some sort of attack that happens tomorrow or today, overnight into tomorrow. You know, just by looking back at what happened historically, and
Agreed.
it just, it makes sense when you say explosions that something might, it's almost like, yeah, shit's gonna hit the fan here.
I definitely feel
Um,
like it's a shit's gonna hit the fan aspect. Like it's just there's
mhm.
no way it's not. It's Mars and Pluto. Like they're just that intense together. And then it's just odd to me that I do feel like astrologically, then there is this kind of reprieve because we really don't have another major planetary aspect besides, the moon moving through and making all of her aspects and communications. But we really don't have anything until that I can see until like Wednesday, October 1st.
Yeah, when and that's a square between Mercury and Jupiter.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's getting to this very intense like peak in
Hmm.
information that's all coming out all at once, all over the place, like wildfire. And I think that's what the kite aspect, it's very just information overload all over the place, all at once. And then I don't know if this is like some sort of pushback, the Mars Pluto thing, like somebody's like, no, all of that doesn't, I really hope somebody comes from behind the shadows and was like, none of it is true and none of it makes any sense and don't believe him and all this kind of crap, right? Something like that. But then yes, you're right, nothing for like an entire week after this.
But a
Nothing.
lot of, obviously a lot of lunar aspects. So I wonder if people are just going to be in their feelings.
Yes.
Like
um
is that like processing? I don't know.
it might be. Oh, there's oh no, my sorry, I went backwards. My book flipped and I was like, oh no, there is an aspect, but there's not.
No,
Just
we're just
trying
where
to
are we?
like
What's happening?
understand things. Well, the sun is opposite Neptune and nothing nothing
Yeah,
actually.
nothing really makes sense. Let's go back to current transits and just see if there's anything else that this week we kind of want to highlight for people to pay attention to as we kind of go through the days. I think that's really
Yeah, it's
it.
kind of like Mercury will get far enough away from the sun um to like start to understand, I think, is the biggest one. Venus hits that 15-degree point. What day is that? October 1st as well.
October 1st is going to be something because so Venus is hitting that eclipse point,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then also the moon is conjuncting with Pluto.
And then that's that Mercury Jupiter square.
Yeah.
Like
So
some big announcement about what happened under that first
there you go.
eclipse.
Yes, yes, definitely something with that first eclipse with Venus right there on that point of 15. And the moon is going to be that's when the moon goes into Aquarius, so we'll really feel that Pluto moon conjunction happening. And
Hmm.
that's
So is this like, okay, something happens under the energy today leading into tomorrow, and then it's like crickets for a bit as everybody tries to process. And then this is like next Wednesday is, oh, here's what happened.
yeah, maybe because then the moon's applying to square Mars, which is going to happen. It's going to come exact. Is that 6 degrees? 6 degrees. Like early Thursday morning. So throughout that day, Wednesday, the first, I would say there's going to be some intense energy. It's interesting that it's Venus at that eclipse point because when Charlie Kirk was murdered, the sun and Mercury had hit that eclipse point, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you would think that for sure it's probably going to be something about that story,
Yes,
right?
I
Um,
agree.
but that could tie into whatever's going on right now with like what's the astrology of today into tomorrow and whatever's being said at the United Nations right now by
Mm-hmm.
the leader of the United States. Like it seems to me like they might be connected next.
Yeah,
Do you see that?
because yes, whatever happened with that, it forever changed the way we look at, I want to say politics, but it's not. It's something deeper. It's something about what Charlie Kirk, the information that he shared with the world. And people are only really just like, because I didn't know who he was before. I
Oh
had
yeah,
no
most
idea.
people didn't know. Now
Yeah.
everybody knows.
And now everybody sees it, and it's on our threads daily. It's like, here's him talking over somebody
Yeah,
about.
well, it gave him a bigger platform, his
It
death.
did, yeah, after death. And that happens with it, like if you look back at great philosophers and artists, like they weren't known during their time. And now we look at Leonardo da Vinci and we're like, wow, yeah, he was
Yeah,
epic.
it's really more tied in with his legacy at this point.
Yes, that's the word, his
Yeah.
legacy. So is this his wife doing something because it's Venus? Even though that's
You
not.
definitely there could be some kind of more feminine presence that comes
Mhm.
in or something to do with relationships or finances even
Yeah.
could be a way that that shows up. Venus in Virgo. Let's think about that.
Yeah, that's like the services, the acts of
Acts
service
of
that
service
we provide in a loving, caring manner through
and
Venus.
perfecting through critique, right?
Yeah. Even though it's harsh, Venus thinks it's helpful, you know? Like she's just
Yeah.
trying to help.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but it sometimes comes off as because she's in a fallen state, people are like, well, you're judging me, you're criticizing me. I don't like your micromanagey way, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm interested to see what the Venusian energy brings to this signature, this story, this eclipse.
Yes. Yeah, and it is a lot about now that the health and wellness part of it after the Virgo eclipse is coming into play through the vaccine and apparently Tylenol. we are, it's just building into something that's beyond, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe there'll be something more positive that comes out about that when Venus hits. We'll have to see. All right,
Uh,
well, let's
yeah.
wrap up for today because I think that gives a very good overview of the week to come. And
Yeah, and we'll see what that brings, and we'll meet next week before Wednesday, maybe,
Yes.
to
Yeah.
see
And see where we're at.
yeah, where
Um,
it's gonna go.
and please feel free to leave us a comment on anything that you're seeing or your thoughts on how the astrology is playing out in the
Hmm.
day to day or in your personal life and how this week goes. Good luck riding through the Mars Pluto energy, but also don't worry, it's easy to get into astrology and then be like, "Oh my God, what's going to happen?" And like things are always happening. We're always working with these energies. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
be forearmed, right?
Yeah.
And then please like and subscribe both of our channels and follow on Instagram. Maggie, where can people find you?
I'm mostly on Facebook under Made by Megs Astro. I do have Instagram, but I don't use it as often. But feel free to follow me. I post daily updates every day.
Okay, great. And then I'm on YouTube at The Witch of Saturn and on Instagram with that same handle. I do post a little bit on Facebook, but not as much. So, and then you can always message Maggie for a reading and go to my website to book with me, which is erinlento.com. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.